Mass Effect. What do you imagine when you hear those words? If you're familiar with the series, with the world, then you might imagine any number of things. Gleaming towers, streaking dreadnoughts, hulking reapers. You might think of the Citadel and its Presidium, or perhaps Omega and its nightlife. You are impressed by BioWare's technological vision of the future and awed by the beauty and scale of the galaxy. But all is not well for those living in the 23rd century. The world of Mass Effect is not perfect, and its problems are numerous and quite hidden from casual observance. Today, we are going to shine some light on the dark side of Mass Effect, focusing on one particularly nasty point that is relatively unexplored in the games and other media: slavery. Slavery as an institution, I'm sure we can all agree, is a vile thing. It robs people of agency and power to enrich a privileged few. And while slavery still exists today illegally in the form of human trafficking, legal slavery is outlawed in almost every country in the world. But imagine for a moment if this was not the case. Imagine if there is a country out there that did allow slavery, encouraged it even. A place where a criminal could bring victims he kidnapped from other countries, citizens from all over the world taken by force to be sold. No one would stand for it. They would be destroyed, surely. But again, imagine, what if this country was larger, more powerful, had a strong military? What if this country was the only force keeping millions of more brutal criminals at bay and away from you? That, in a nutshell, is Mass Effect's Batarian hegemony. A star nation inextricably built on a rotten foundation of slavery. This anachronism of an empire is authoritarian and brutal in its rule. It sponsors raiding bands to attack and abduct tens of thousands of colonists of all races to sell within their own borders under only the thinnest veneers of legitimacy. The Batarians have long been ostracized by the rest of the galaxy for their practices and aggression, but the recent arrival of the humans and the challenging of their hold on the Scalian Verge has brought out the worst in them. Raids at Mindor and Elysium caused catastrophic loss of life and the consignment of many more to slavery. This problem is exacerbated by Alliance fleet tactics. Instead of posting garrisons at colonies in the Verge, the fleets are clustered at relay hubs and called out as needed. This keeps human ships together and therefore more effective when they do enter combat, but it does mean that any colonies attacked have to wait for relief. Relief that may only come after hours or even days. The slavers exploited that weakness in Alliance doctrine to devastating effect. Everyone knew who was really behind what had happened, but the hegemony's refusal to admit to their crimes and the Council's tacit agreement to let the Batarians do what they want meant that the Alliance's hands were tied. Their only recourse was to strike the slavers at Torfin, which they did to resounding success. But everyone knew that the problem would not be solved until the hegemony itself could be brought to heel. But the Council would never allow it, so the humans would have to suffer continued abductions for many more years. Why was the Council so intent on allowing the Batarians to survive? We can't be sure, but given the fact that they have allowed them to exist and practice slavery for hundreds of years, we have to assume that they are good reasons. For one thing, war with the hegemony would be long and costly. The Council races would win, there is no doubt about that. But at the end of the day, there is not enough political will to force the matter. Thanks to the shroud of paranoia and secrecy surrounding the hegemony, as well as their less than prominent role in the canon as we know it, we don't know a lot about them and their role in the Terminus. But what we do know seems to indicate that the presence of such a powerful nation at the Terminus was a stabilizing factor. The hegemony kept the gangs and pirate groups there in check and well away from civilized space. Geographically and culturally speaking, the hegemony is closely tied to the Terminus systems. The nation is quite close to the uncivilized portion of the galaxy, and Batarians are more the rule than the exception in less savory circles. While a good many criminals there are slavers on the Batarian payroll, most are not, so the hegemony themselves have ample reason to keep them under some control. At the very least, putting down any local warlords that get too powerful for their own good. This active interference keeps the pirates and gangs from becoming strong enough to pose a serious threat to the galaxy at large. At the end of the day, millions of human lives ruined and billions of suffering slaves do not factor into decision making at the top of the Presidium. As we mentioned earlier, the subject of slavery is brought up only occasionally in game, and never does it truly convey to the player the scale of it. Billions of slaves in the hegemony, millions of indentured servants. Large-scale, state-sponsored atrocity is an everyday occurrence in the Mass Effect universe. And the fact that it is mentioned so rarely should serve as a disquieting testament to how slavery has been normalized in the minds of those living in the 23rd century. We hope that you've, well, if not enjoyed, been interested in our little foyer into Mass Effect's dark underbelly. There is a lot more to explore, and not just about slavery, so if you're interested in seeing more dark side of Mass Effect videos, be sure to let us know in the comments down below. And while you are down there, give this video a like and hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video. On a much more serious note, we'd like to take this opportunity to spread some awareness about human trafficking. Unlike slavery in Mass Effect, this is real and is happening here, right now. About 21 million people are functionally enslaved in the world today, many of whom are brought from poorer countries to affluent ones like the United States. You don't have to read history books or imagine sci-fi futures to see slaves. If you live in a big city, chances are that there are hundreds living in your area right now. Human trafficking is a serious problem, and many people are sadly unaware of either its existence, the sheer scale of it, or the fact that it is not a distant issue. We encourage you to learn more about it using the links in the description down below. Thank you for your time.